Hello and welcome to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, and tonight, we are breaking down what turned out to be, I think a pretty awesome Thursday night game. Broncos knocked off the Jets 37-28. It was not, it's not going to be used in, clinic to talk about how good football was played. We saw, more than a few just boneheaded decisions on both sides of the ball, but ultimately it was a fun one, had a lot of points being put up there. So I want to quickly go over some thoughts from this game, potential fantasy football takeaways moving forward, and then I want to go through some injuries for the week and then just what to expect going on to the weekend and potential guys we should be looking at getting increased opportunities. So thank you as always for listening, and let's get started. So, on the Jets side of the ball, Sam Darnold, not his best game passing the ball by any stretch of the imagination, 230 yards on 42 attempts, no touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, the story of the night, though, okay, maybe not story of the night, but story of the early going was this absurd 46-yard touchdown run that Donald had. I mean, he literally made two guys miss. I mean, okay, the tackling was a little bit suspect, and he looked like he was about ready to slide or fall about the entire time. But, at the end of the day, 46-yard touchdown. He had the longest rush on the Jets last season. He's going for 2 years in a row. You love to see that. Can't believe he didn't break his collarbone after he got viciously slung the turf, but came back in and then, kind of made everyone forget about that run because he took a sack that naturally Twitter was all talking about him, more or less looking like he had just been sacked by a ghost because no one was there. So another pretty erratic performance from him. Again, I don't think anyone was starting him in fantasy really, but 6 carries, 84 yards in a score. I don't think that's really going to be too consistent down the road, but maybe on his next team after Coach Adam Gase is also gone, Sammy D can make something happen. With the run game, I mean, just, the usual stuff with Frank Gore getting 13 carries, 30 yards, not getting much going there. He continued to not dominate snaps, but 35 snaps. Kalen Ballage had 23 and LaMichael Pirine had 10. So really nothing going on here. I think the answer to if he should have anyone in his backfield is no. Even once Le'Veon Bell comes back, I mean, it's going to be tough. I bet Gore's going to continue to get this, 8 to 10 at least rushes per game. We'll see what happens. If you have Le'Veon Bell in fantasy, and you're holding on to him, I mean, I don't think you'll be able to trade him for much at the moment. But again, just keep expectations in check for pretty much anyone involved in this offense. Quickly with the receiving core, Chris Herndon, my, just long lost fantasy football love Chris Herndon. Only one catch on 3 targets, and it was just a rough night. He had one hit him directly in the chest. I've been very upfront on this pod about how badly I missed on that one. But if any of you out there were trying to, show some faith and keep him on that roster, feel free to give him the boot. Certainly not helping his cause by being asked to pass block so much, but at this point, I mean, it's just hard to say too many good things about the on-field performance we've seen. Also, something named Jeff Smith had 7 catches for 81 yards on 9 targets. He had some good speed, and he is someone that's been with the Jets for a little bit now, but I wouldn't really expect him to kind of keep this spot once Brashad Perryman, Denzel Mims get back in the fold. I mean, I think Jeff is going to be the first one to go, so wouldn't worry about that at all for waiver wires. Not that many probably were. Big story here, though, is Jamison Crowder, 7 catches, 104 yards on 10 targets. He looked healthy. I mean, had a real nice 35-yard catch down the field where he pretty much caught it over top a guy. And, you don't see that much out of Crowder. Usually it's kind of the short stuff and this and that. But, hamstring injury, I was betting his under, just thinking he might not be out there playing a full allotment of snaps. But, he ended up playing 57 snaps. Hogan was at 60, and Jeff Smith was at 64. So Crowder was pretty much out there just as much as the other guys. So, we're going to be able to treat him as the truly only fantasy relevant New York Jets player, Jamison Crowder. I still want to get crazy, but he low-key has some upside. I mean, last year he was actually, I think it was 5th or 6th among all wide receivers in weeks as a true PPR wide receiver 1. So, he's going to be flirting with double-digit targets almost every single week, particularly while these other guys remain so banged up. I think we can approach Crowder cautiously as a, upside wide receiver 3, and if not kind of around that, 27 to 30 range. So Broncos side of the ball, Brett Rippon, wow. So up and down game, to say the least. Troy Aikman and company were kind of crowning him after a pretty solid first 3 quarters for the most part. But oh my gosh, he had 3 of just the more brutal interceptions you're ever going to see. The first one in the first half, he just didn't, he was trying to throw the ball away, but he didn't get it anywhere near close enough, and it got picked. And then the second half had a pick 6 to Pierre Desir, where there's 3 defenders right around him. And then the very next drive, 2 throws later, throws another one where it just got undercut with a crosser monster. So, credit to him for throwing one hell of a block on Melvin Gordon's game-winning 43-yard, game-sealing, I should say, 43-yard touchdown run. I mean, Rippon was out there trying to do his thing, and the guy obviously it's a good story and all that, but I mean, come on, I don't think this is a situation that we're going to see too much from in the future. So would like to see Drew Lock hopefully get healthy sooner rather than later. If there was one connection that Rippon had going, though, it was to Tim Patrick, 6 catches on 7 targets for 113 yards and a score. Patrick's been out there since, the second half of last season, actually making some plays. I mean, I know Cortland Sutton's stole the show. I still think Judy and, KJ Hamler, who had a hamstring injury, if they're healthy and they're out there, they're going to be involved over Patrick, I think, more weeks than not. But to this point, we've seen Rippon, really showing more chemistry with Patrick than anyone. So if Rippon's going to be out there again in week 5, I mean, it's, a situation where if you're super, hurting for someone, a bunch of injuries, the bye weeks are hitting you, could have worse people than Tim Patrick. 6'4", can make some plays downfield, not the worst streaming option. I wouldn't prioritize him. Don't be blowing the fab load on Tim Patrick. But hey, the guy's gone out there and made some good plays for the better part of the last 12 months. Jerry Jeudy had a nice touchdown, 48 yards, but oh man, it's tough to give him too much credit on it because the ball was so underthrown. It probably should have been picked. They called it that he mossed the guy on the broadcast. I thought that was absolutely wrong, but you know what? He got the ball. He got in there. Only 3 targets for him was disappointing to see, and that's kind of the issue I have with expecting Patrick to move forward as the true number 1, because Judy's got to get more involved moving forward. But you know what? Maybe we can see both of them continue to have high volume of targets, because unfortunately, Noah Fant suffered a knee injury, got carted off the field, absolutely sucks. And even once he gets back, I mean, someone that really relies on their ability to rack up yards after the catch, got to think he's not going to be at 100% for a little bit. So you hate to see that from the Broncos receiving room, just getting more and more and more banged up here as we go. Quickly, Melvin Gordon, had the awesome 43-yard touchdown run where he pretty much went up the middle, completely nothing there, but no one wrapped him up, bounced it to the outside, and was able to take it to the house. So good job by Gordon there. He tried to hurdle someone like 2 drives before that and got freaking thrown on the ground. Happened to Kalen Ballage last week too. I don't know how these guys keep trying to hurdle. Luckily he wasn't hurt and had that nice play, big drop before that. So was about to be a pretty disappointing performance from Gordon, but found a touchdown there, had a goal line one earlier. Solid evening for Melvin Gordon. I would say moving forward though with him, Upside RB2 is asking a lot in this offense. It's going to be more of a situation where he's going to be maybe a borderline top 20 guy, but to his credit, he did dominate the snap shares in this game. I mean, Royce Freeman last week was up at about 40%, and when Phillip Lindsay's out there, and we'll see when he's back, it's going to be more of a 60-40 situation, but tonight at least, Melvin Gordon played 49 snaps, Royce Freeman only 10, so as long as Lindsay's out, we have 2 or 3 games where Gordon has been a true workhorse, and the one game he wasn't was more, I think, just negative game script from them falling behind pretty severely. So I think, as long as Lindsay is hanging out, we can be a little more lenient on a Gordon towards that top 15 range. Once Lindsay's back, that's when I'd be dropping him down a little bit. So that is pretty much going to wrap it up with this game. Again, Broncos 37, Jets 28. I would not be lining up to play players from any of these offenses moving forward. Melvin Gordon, Jamison, Crowder, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, and that I think is going to be the extent of our exposure. And again, some of those receivers are even a stretch. So again, good stuff there. I'm happy we got to see some bad football, vintage Thursday night performance. But before we get on these injuries, quick shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. If you like fantasy football, you need to be playing on Underdog Fantasy. I love it. No lineup setting, waiver wires, or bad trades to deal with. Team that built the app is top notch, and I love their customer support. Look up Underdog Fantasy on your app store or go to underdogfantasy.com to play today. Make your first deposit today, and be sure to use my code PFF after you do. Let them know that I sent you. So injuries. So everyone, very important, have had a lot of stuff going on. Want to, just shout out Mario Plana from PFF. You can go to PFF and find his article on the injuries and, update them throughout the week, because right now, Thursday night, I'm recording this by Friday around 5 or 6. Usually you get the full injury designations. Monday ones come in Saturday afternoon. And then obviously actives and inactives Sunday morning. So got to do some projecting right now, but at minimum, I think we can try to get ahead of some of these problems on the waiver wire. So starting off with the Arizona Cardinals. Christian Kirk, groin injury. He missed last week. He's come back with some limited practices, so it seemed like he'll be able to get out there. DeAndre Hopkins hasn't been practicing with an ankle. We saw this last week, though. It's perceived as day-to-day, just more maintenance than anything. It seems like Nuke is going to be just fine. With Kirk coming back, I think it's going to be tough to expect much from Andy Isabella because Keyshawn Johnson was playing over him last week. It's still an offense that is just dominated by Hopkins through the air. Would not, be going out of my way to play any of these complimentary receivers in season-long leagues. With the Falcons, this is Monday night. So they got a little bit. Calvin Ridley did not start the week off with a practice due to an ankle injury. Might be maintenance, but Julio was there at least in a limited fashion with a hamstring. Russell Gage limited with a concussion. So good to see Russell at least not being listed as a DMP there. And same thing with Julio. The Ridley one is concerning, but again, it might just be maintenance. And we'll play it by ear a little bit there. But if all these guys are healthy, you can have any of them in your lineup. I think we got to play Julio no matter what, and he is someone that we've seen play through the pain in the past. And also Gage, okay, if one of these guys is out, okay, he'll get fed more targets, but in week 1 he had 13 even with him in. So a whole bunch of first read throws for Gage this season from Ryan. I think he'll be just fine if he can get out there and pass through the concussion protocol. With the Bills, it looks like Zach Moss is going to return this week, back-to-back limited practices. That hurts Singletary's stock a little bit. Also worth noting that John Brown with a calf injury didn't practice to start the week and then got a limited practice in Thursday. His snaps were split in half pretty much last week as he suffered that in the game. But it seems like he's going to have a chance to go out there. I'd still be a little bit nervous about using him. If he does end up missing the game, check out Gabriel Davis on DraftKings at only 3,200. Obviously, Cole Beasley also has some room to grow. So Buffalo offense is humming right now. I want to make sure we have a grip on who's going to be out there. With the Browns, again, if you've listened to pods this week, absolute potential blow-up spot here against the Cowboys defense that can't stop anyone. They have an offense that scores on anyone, and they love to do it as fast as possible. So great spot to target their opposition. Kareem Hunt not practicing first 2 days of the week with a groin injury. That's, concerning. If he's out, it's going to be a Nick Chubb show. It is considered, day-to-day, so maybe not too severe, but it's a situation where with Hunt, he's benefited so much from these positive game scripts over the last 2 weeks. And if it's going to be a game like I think we're kind of all thinking it is, where the Cowboys are at a minimum going to be competitive and scoring a lot, I'm not so sure Hunt's going to get that same sort of, near 50-50 split we've been seeing. I think Chubb could be the guy we end up seeing taking over if it's a more neutral script. With the wide receivers, Jarvis Landry has been practicing in full all week, despite having, still the hip designation. Odell Beckham popped up on Thursday, limited practice with a back injury. Not good. He's been banged up over the last 2 seasons, so he might try to play through it. No problem. I wouldn't say we expect him to be out, but either way, I think this points to Jarvis Landry maybe being the best, pivot scenario in DraftKings right now. OBJ is the one that's kind of going a little bit higher price range. And, Landry, I was looking into it. He's been playing, I believe it was on Mayfield's 92 dropbacks. Landry's been in on 80 of them, and Beckham's been on 83. So it's not like he's been limited this year. The targets have just gone to Beckham so far, and it's been a low-volume pass offense, so they just haven't had a chance to get 2 guys involved. Again, I think they'll be throwing a lot more in week 4. In week 1, when they threw a lot more, was against the Ravens, obviously one of the better secondaries in the league, despite what Mahomes can do to them. But now going against that Cowboys unit, could see a really big day from Jarvis Landry and company. With the Packers, bad news for Allen Lazard, core injury, underwent core muscle surgery. He's out indefinitely. Big game last week. And Devontae Adams, he was able to get in a limited session to start the week. He was a game time decision, so hopefully he gets out there. But with this hamstring injury, you never know. Setting the stage for Marquez Valdes-Scantling, maybe be the number 1 wide receiver in Green Bay. And I'd also add Robert Tonyan receives a boost with this, potential injuries going on. Houston Texans pour one out for Will Fuller, limited on Thursday with a hamstring injury. We knew he was banged up in week 2 with this. Went out last week and seemed fine. Didn't start the week on the injury report, so it's definitely a concern. And hopefully it's not a game time decision. If you have a start sit question that's pretty close with Will Fuller, I would probably advise sitting him this week. The re-aggravation is just too strong. We have seen Bill O'Brien use him as a decoy in the past when he's out there. With the Colts, Nyheim Hines shoulder injury. He got in a full practice and should be fine. But just want to point out, Jonathan Taylor's in a great spot this week against Chicago. Bears have allowed the third most yards before contact per rush in the entire league this year. Have not been a great rushing defense. Just haven't really, faced someone that's really driven it into them. But you look last week, and if you combine Todd Gurley and Brian Hill's rushing production, that'd be one hell of an afternoon. I think, Jonathan Taylor priced a little bit higher than kind of some of the values could be a nice tournament play this week. Jaguars, DJ Chark has had, the chest and back injury, but he's gotten in back-to-back limited sessions. Hopefully should be out there. Not a bad bounce back spot for, Gardner Minshew. I know a lot of people getting on the Bengals and Joe Burrow for good reason, writing off Gardner after that, primetime Thursday night debacle last week. But if he gets Chark back, this is still a guy who's thrown 3+ touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 games. He's going to carry lower ownership than he would otherwise. With the Chargers, I'm out on Joshua Kelly in this spot. 1, just because they're going to be touchdown underdogs, and 2, Justin Jackson is seemingly going to be back with this from his quad injury after practicing in full twice. Some people have said, Kelly won the job, he's just better. I don't know. We can't say that. Jackson's averaged 5.1 yards per carry during his time with the Chargers. I know yards per carry isn't, the greatest stat to define running back success, but all I'm trying to say is, like a Gus Edwards with the Ravens, Justin Jackson just isn't this complete scrub that we should expect Kelly to just keep a job and walk over if he is healthy enough. Mike Williams not practicing all week with the hamstring injury. Just, how many targets can Keenan Allen get in one game? We're going to find out this Sunday. With the Raiders, both Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs are not practicing and not expected to play. Edwards due to a foot, Ruggs due to a knee. Just a mess there. If you want to sign Nelson Aguilar and go through that experience, God help you. But I think more than anything, it's just going to be the Darren Waller show, and we'll see his running backs get a little bit more involved. Hopefully Josh Jacobs' train keeps on moving. With the Patriots, Damian Harris has a chance to come back from this finger injury. Meanwhile, Sony Michel's popping up with a quad and limited. Edelman's limited as usual with a knee. Edelman's fine. I would just note with this backfield, keep an eye on James White if he's going to be out there this Sunday. And, if he is, and Damian is back and Sony's there, and then we have Cam taking goal line stuff, and of course 3 touchdown Rex coming back. I think we just need to stay away from all of these running backs at the moment, unless, you're taking DFS chances. If White's out, then okay, Burkhead's a play. And if Harris is out, then okay, Sony has a little value, but even then, I think Cam's going to be getting these goal line carries more often than not. With the Saints, Jared Cook, DMP back-to-back days, start the week with a groin injury, not looking good. Adam Trautman is their, tight end that got out of Dayton. Looks pretty athletic out there. They've used him a little bit, and it would be a situation that I wouldn't mind throwing a few darts at on DraftKings if Cook is ultimately ruled out. Michael Thomas has gotten in limited practices in both days to start the week due to this ankle injury. Seems like he could have a chance to get back there, but it's just going to be him and the Alvin Kamara show. And we know Drew Brees, league low average target depth right now, has no problem feeding those guys all over the place. Just about 5 more teams here, everyone. Eagles, oh my gosh, just walking graveyard all over the place. D-Jack's hamstring, not practicing. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. John Hightower, not practicing. Alshon Jeffrey went from a limited to a DMP on Thursday. Just a complete mess. Greg Ward, how many targets can you get, man? But with Carson Wentz, he's already not playing well, and then you add the usual problem that we've seen in the past of all these injuries. I just don't know how you can, expect this to change in this spot against the 49ers, who, hey, they're banged up too, but as we saw last week, I think their, just general great coaching staff can help them overcome that better than most teams. Miles Sanders is limited back-to-back practices with a glute injury. Doesn't seem super serious. Keep an eye on it. Obviously missed week 1, and they made that pretty clear. If he is out, Boston Scott, Corey Clement, we kind of saw that split. I would not be doing this offense. Miles Sanders, he's fine in this offense. Him and Zach Ertz can get all the touches they can handle, but if you take him out and we really want to go down the Boston Scott road against 49ers, I will pass. With the Seahawks, so Carlos Hyde with a shoulder injury and Chris Carson with a leg injury have been limited throughout the week. It sounds like Carson's got a real chance of playing. If he doesn't, keep this Hyde shoulder injury in mind, because this, shoulder and rib injuries with the running backs, particularly kind of one-dimensional bruisers like Hyde, can be concerning with their touch workload. I think Travis Homer could maybe be the favorite to outscore Hyde if Carson is ultimately injured. I would not be going on my way at all to play Hyde this week, regardless of Carson's status. 49ers, Garoppolo, DMP back-to-back games, looking like the Nick Mullins show once again. Jerick McKinnon has been been practicing in fall week, so that's good, as has George Kittle. So even though, Jimmy G and Raheem Mostert with a knee injury and maybe Deebo Samuel are going to be out for at least another week, will be good to see Kittle back there. I'm expecting a ton of targets for this guy. I mean, they gave him an extra week. It sounds like he could have maybe played last week, but they had concerns about the turf coming into this spot. I would not be shocked at all if he just tears up of Eagles defense that, lost Malcolm Jenkins, didn't do a good job replacing him, has already, been giving up plenty of production to the tight end position. So love going with Kittle. It's too bad he's not on the main slate. They have that Sunday night game, but, captain spot and showdown slate perhaps. So with the Buccaneers, Leonard Fournette not practicing all week with an ankle injury. That's concerning, but Rojo season, if Fournette is ultimately sidelined, and we could be looking at 70% snap share for Rojo if Fournette's out, so keep an eye on this for sure. Chris Godwin's expecting to miss 2 to 4 weeks with a moderate hamstring strain. Just sucks. I mean, this dude has been making so many plays. Just whenever he's been out there with Brady this year. I know Evans has had the Jordan Howard-esque receiving lines, making all the goal line touchdowns, with Godwin looking plenty good as well. And Scotty Miller also hurt. They're just really banged up right now on offense. Hip groin, back-to-back DMPs. So Justin Watson will get some more run, but I think honestly maybe Gronk and to a lesser extent OJ Howard could be the beneficiaries. But don't be surprised to see Mike Evans and Ronald Jones get all the touches they can handle. Last one, Washington football team. Dontrell Inman and Steven Sims are banged up, but the one everyone cares about is Terry McLaurin, thigh injury, limited on Thursday. Sounds like someone will be able to play through, but again, just keep an eye on it. McLaurin's the only one want to play in this offense against the Ravens. I know it's the Ravens, and we saw what happened with Will Fuller 2 weeks ago in that goose egg, but in that game, Brandon Cooks almost had 100 yards, and then we just saw what the Chiefs did to him. So I know it's tough, and if it's a close and you have multiple top 20 fantasy receivers, I get it to pick another guy over McLaurin, but don't be sitting him just because of this matchup. That's going to do it, everyone. Before we get out of here, just one quick word from our sponsor and friends at Monkey Knife Fight. I have a lot of people DM me and say, Ian, I want a PFF subscription. You got a code for me? Well, yes, I do, everyone. You can use promo code PFF. You go to Monkey Knife Fight, and all you need to do is deposit $20. You will get to use that $20 to play their daily fantasy and prop games and win money. Maybe you can turn it into, $1,000, $10,000. I don't know. Limitless possibilities, people. But with that $20, the one thing you are guaranteed is a $40 PFF subscription. So you can get a PFF Edge annual subscription, $40 value, for $20 values that on the Monkey Knife Fight that you can then use to try to win more money. So it sounds like a good deal to me. If you're going to sign for PFF, go through Monkey Knife Fight. That's going to do it, everyone. Thank you, as always, for listening to the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Ian Hartitz, and, always coming with new episodes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Excited for another Sunday of NFL football. More and more to come. We're in week 4. It's wild, everyone. Absolutely wild. But many more to come. Thank you for listening, as always. Take care.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.